The harder you work, the broker you get. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And I'm Henry Ford, and I'm about to show you the exact point where working harder starts making you poorer and how to fix it in 40 days. Most people spend their whole lives chasing money. Working harder, longer hours, more hustle, more grind. And they end up broke, tired, and wondering why they can't get ahead. But here's what nobody tells you. At some point, more work equals less money. Rich people found the exact spot where working harder starts making you poorer. There's a 40-day reset that shows you where you cross that line, and when you pull back in the right spots, money goes up. I'm not here to give you theory. I'm not here to talk about dreams and wishes. I'm here to show you exactly what I did, the mistakes I made, the things I learned, and why working yourself to death is the fastest way to stay broke. This isn't about working less and being lazy. This is about understanding how money actually works. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So stay with me. Don't skip ahead, because what I'm about to share changed my life. And if you listen, if you really listen, you'll walk away from this knowing exactly what to do tomorrow morning. This isn't theory. This is how it actually works. Listen to this every day for the next month. Each time you hear it, you'll catch something new, something you missed the first time. Because this goes against everything you've been taught, and your brain needs time to rewire. So let's begin. Here's the first thing you need to understand. You've been lied to, not by one person, by everyone. They told you work hard and you'll get rich. Work harder than everyone else. Outwork the competition. Hustle. Grind. Never stop. And you believed it. Why wouldn't you? Everyone said the same thing. Your parents, your teachers, every successful person you saw, they all said, work hard. So you did. You worked harder than anyone around you. More hours, more effort, more sacrifice. And you know what happened? You got more tired. Not more rich, more tired. Because here's what nobody told you. There's a point where working harder stops making you money and starts costing you money. Think about that. Working harder can actually make you poorer. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because that's how it works. And most people never figure this out. They work themselves into the ground for 40 years and they end up with nothing. Not because they didn't work hard enough, but because they worked too hard in the wrong direction. I learned this the hard way. When I was building my first automobiles, I worked all the time, every day, every night, weekends. I thought that was the answer. Work more, make more. But I was wrong, dead wrong, and it almost broke me. Let me tell you what happened. I was in my shop one night. It was late, maybe midnight. I'd been there since dawn, building, testing, fixing. My hands were covered in grease. My back hurt. My eyes burned. And I looked around at what I'd accomplished that day. One automobile. One. I'd worked 16 hours and built one automobile. And I did the math in my head. If I kept working like this, I could maybe build 300 automobiles a year. Maybe. And I'd have to work every single day. No breaks, no rest. Just work. And that's when it hit me. I was doing it wrong. I wasn't building a business. I was building a prison. A prison where I was both the guard and the prisoner. Because the harder I worked, the more stuck I became. I couldn't take a day off. I couldn't get sick. I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, the money stopped. And here's what scared me most. Clara, my wife, had stopped asking when I'd be home for dinner. She'd stopped waiting up for me. She'd stopped expecting me to be there. And I realized I was losing more than just time. I was losing my life. For what? To build one automobile a day. That's when I understood something that changed everything. Rich people don't work hard. They work smart. And there's a massive difference. Working hard means trading your time for money. Working smart means building systems that make money without you. And that's the shift. That's the thing nobody teaches you. You have to stop selling your time and start building systems. Because your time is limited. You only have so many hours in a day, so many days in your life. And once you sell those hours, they're gone. Forever. You can't make more time. But you can build systems that work without you. Systems that make money while you sleep, while you rest, while you spend time with people you love. That's how you actually get rich. Not by working harder, by building smarter. But here's what most people don't realize about that line where working harder makes you poorer. Now let me show you exactly where most people cross the line. The line where working harder starts making you poorer. It happens at different points for different people, but it always happens. And most people don't even notice. Here's how it works. When you first start, working more does make you more money. You work 40 hours, you make X amount. You work 50 hours, you make more. You work 60 hours, you make even more. So you think the pattern continues forever. Work more, make more. Simple. But it doesn't. Because at some point, usually around 60 to 70 hours a week, something changes. You start making mistakes because you're tired. Those mistakes cost you money. You start missing opportunities because you don't have time to think. Those missed opportunities cost you money. You start damaging your health because you're not sleeping or eating right. Those health problems cost you money. And suddenly, you're working 70 hours a week and making less than you made at 50 hours. That's the line. That's where working harder starts making you poorer. And once you cross it, every extra hour you work costs you money instead of making you money. But here's the crazy part. Most people don't pull back. They think they just need to work even harder. So they go to 80 hours, then 90, and they get poorer and poorer, more tired, more broke, more trapped, until they burn out completely. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. Good people, hard workers, they destroy themselves because nobody told them there's a limit. A point where more effort creates less result. And that's what I'm here to tell you today. You need to find your line, and you need to pull back. And when you do, something unexpected happens that most people never see coming. So here's what you do instead. You stop trading time for money, and you start building systems. Now, what's a system? It's simple. A system is something that works without you, something that creates value without needing you there every second. Think of it like a water wheel. You set it up once in the right spot, and the river keeps it turning, day after day, month after month, year after year. You don't have to push it. You don't have to be there. The river does the work. That's a system. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I was building automobiles by hand, I was trading time for money. I worked, an automobile got built. I stopped working, no automobile, no money. That's trading time for money. But then I did something different. I built an assembly line. And that assembly line was a system. I set it up once, and then it kept working. Even when I wasn't there, even when I was sleeping, even when I was thinking about other things. The system kept producing automobiles. That's the difference. And once I understood this, everything changed. I stopped asking, how can I work harder? And started asking, how can I build a system that works without me? And that one question changed my entire life. Because systems scale. Your time doesn't. You can only work so many hours. But a system can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, without getting tired, without making mistakes, without needing a break. That's how you get rich. Not by working harder, by building systems. But most people get stuck at one specific point when they try to build their first system. Now here's the part where most people get stuck. They think building systems is complicated. They think you need money, resources, a team, a factory. You don't. You need one thing. You need to understand what problem you're solving. That's it. Every system starts with a problem. A problem that people have. A problem they want solved. a problem they'll pay to have removed. When I built my assembly line, what problem was I solving? The problem was this. Building automobiles by hand was too slow and too expensive. So I built a system that made it faster and cheaper. That's all a system is, a better way to solve a problem. And once you understand that, you can build systems anywhere. You don't need a factory. You don't need a big team. You just need to find a problem and build a better way to solve it. Then you repeat that solution over and over without needing to be there every time. That's a system. And you can build one in 40 days. Let me show you how. But first, here's something nobody tells you about the first 10 days. Here's your 40-day plan. And I want you to actually do this. Not just listen and forget. Actually do it. Days 1 to 10. Find your problem. Spend these 10 days just looking for problems, not solutions, problems. What do people complain about? What takes too long? What costs too much? What's frustrating? What do people wish was easier? Write down every problem you hear, every frustration, every complaint. And by day 10, you'll have a list of maybe 30 or 40 problems. Now pick one, just one. The one that people complain about the most. The one that seems the most painful. The one people are already spending money trying to solve. That's your problem. Days 11 to 25. Build your solution. Not a perfect solution, not the best solution in the world, just a solution that works better than what exists right now. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler the better. Just something that solves the problem faster, cheaper, or easier than the current way. Build it. Test it. Get 5 people to use it. Get their feedback. Fix what's broken. Make it better. But don't spend forever trying to make it perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Good enough is good enough. Days 26 to 40. Turn it into a system. This is where everything changes. Take your solution and document it. Every step, every detail. Write it all down. Then, remove yourself from the process. What parts can be automated? Automate them. What parts can someone else do? Teach someone else to do them. What parts require you? Make those parts as small as possible. And by day 40, you should have something that works without you. Maybe it's not making much money yet. That's okay. It's working. And once something works, you can scale it. You can improve it. You can grow it. But you can't scale yourself. You can only scale systems. Now let me tell you about Thomas, because what happened to him shows exactly why this matters. Okay, there was a man who worked at one of my competitors' factories. His name was Thomas. Good worker, showed up every day, worked hard, really hard. He was there before everyone else, left after everyone else. And he made decent money, but he was tired all the time. You could see it in his face, in how he walked, in how he talked. He was burning out. One day I ran into him and asked how things were going. He said he was exhausted. He was working 70 hours a week and barely keeping up with his bills. And he didn't know what to do. So I asked him a question. I said, Thomas, in all those 70 hours, how many of them are you actually creating value? How many are you just doing busy work? How many are you fixing mistakes because you're too tired to do it right the first time? He thought about it, and he said maybe 30 hours were actually productive. The rest was just waste, fixing errors, redoing things, meetings that went nowhere, busy work that didn't matter. So I told him what I'm telling you. Stop working 70 hours. Work 40. But make those 40 hours actually count. Cut all the waste, all the busy work, all the mistakes from being tired. Just focus on the 30 hours that actually create value, and use the other 30 hours you're saving to build a system, something that works without you. He didn't believe me at first, because it sounded backwards. Work less to make more. That can't be right. But he tried it. And you know what happened? Within 6 weeks, he was making more money working 40 hours than he made working 70. Why? Because he wasn't tired anymore. He wasn't making stupid mistakes. He wasn't wasting time. And he used those extra 30 hours to build something on the side. A small system. Nothing fancy, but it worked. And it made money while he wasn't working. That's the shift. That's what changes everything. And what Thomas discovered next is something most people never figure out about how effort actually works. Here's something that's going to sound completely backwards, but it's true. The less you work, the more money you can make. Not because you're lazy, but because of how value actually works. Let me explain. When you work all the time, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to see opportunities. You don't have time to build systems. You're just running. Running on a treadmill. Moving fast. Going nowhere. Imagine you're in a dark room, and you're running as fast as you can. You're sweating. You're working hard. But you can't see where you're going. You're just running in whatever direction you're facing. That's working without thinking. Now imagine you stop running. You catch your breath. You light a candle. And suddenly you can see the whole room. You can see the door. You can see the obstacles. You can see the path. Now when you move in the right direction. That's the difference. When you pull back, when you create space, something changes. You start seeing things you didn't see before. You start noticing problems other people have. You start thinking about solutions. You start building instead of just doing. And that's where money comes from. Not from doing, from building. I learned this when I finally stopped working Caucasian hour days. I cut back to 10 hours, then 8. And you know what happened? I made more money, a lot more. Because I finally had time to think, time to plan, time to build systems instead of just working in them. And those systems made more money in a day than I could make in a month of hard work. That's the paradox. Working less can make you more. But only if you use that time to build systems. If you use it to just rest and do nothing productive, then no, you'll make less. But if you use it to think, to plan, to build, you'll make more. Way more. And it happens faster than you think. But here's what nobody warns you about when you start building. Now I need to be honest with you about something. When you start building your first system, it won't be perfect. Things won't work exactly how you planned. You'll hit obstacles you didn't see coming. People might not understand what you're trying to do, and there will be moments when you question if it's worth it. That's normal. That's part of the process. Every person who ever built anything went through the same thing. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't isn't that successful people have it easier. It's that they keep going when it gets hard. They adjust when things don't work. They learn from what goes wrong. They improve as they go. Think about it like learning to ride a bicycle. Nobody gets on a bicycle for the first time and rides perfectly. You wobble, you fall, you scrape your knee, but you get back on, you try again, you adjust, and eventually you're riding without even thinking about it. Building a system is the same. Your first attempt won't be perfect, but each attempt teaches you something. Each problem you solve makes you better. Each adjustment gets you closer. And if you keep going, if you don't give up when it gets hard, eventually it works. And when it works, it changes everything. And what happened next with my assembly line shows exactly what I mean. Let me tell you what happened after I built my assembly line. At first, nobody believed it would work. The timing was off. Workers struggled to keep up. Parts didn't fit together right. Everything took longer than I thought it would. And people told me it was a waste of time, that I should go back to building automobiles the old way, the way that worked. But I could see something they couldn't. I could see that the problems weren't with the idea. They were with the execution, with the details. And details can be fixed. So instead of giving up, I started paying attention. Where were workers struggling? I made that part easier. Where were parts not fitting? I adjusted the design. Where was the timing off? I changed the pace. Little by little, day by day, I made it better. And eventually all those little improvements added up, and the system started working. Not just working, working better than anything that existed. We went from building a handful of automobiles a week to building dozens, then hundreds. And the only reason that happened was because I didn't quit when it was hard. I kept adjusting, kept improving, kept building. That's what you have to do too. When your system doesn't work perfectly at first, don't scrap it. Fix it. improve it, learn from it, and keep building. But understanding where money actually comes from changes everything about how you approach this. Now let me show you something about money that most people never understand. Money isn't sitting somewhere waiting for you to find it. Money is already moving, right now. Billions of dollars are moving from one person to another, from one company to another, from one place to another. Money never stops moving. It just changes hands. Picture a river, a massive river with billions of gallons flowing through it every single day. That's money. It's not sitting in a lake somewhere. It's flowing, always flowing. And here's the key. Money moves toward value, toward solutions, toward things that make life easier or better or faster. So the question isn't, how do I find money? The question is, how do I position myself where money is already flowing? How do I put my water wheel in the river? Let me give you an example. When people needed automobiles, money was already flowing toward transportation. People were buying horses, buying carriages, paying for trains. The money was moving. I didn't create the need for transportation. I just built a better solution. And because my solution was better, the money that was already flowing toward transportation started flowing toward me instead. That's how it works. You don't create demand. You find where demand already exists, where money is already moving, and you build a better solution. Then the money flows to you. It's that simple. But here's what makes this even more powerful. So here's what you need to do. Stop trying to create something nobody wants. Stop trying to invent demand that doesn't exist. Instead, look at where money is already moving. What are people already buying? What are they already paying for? What are they already spending money on? Find that flow, and then ask yourself, how can I do this better, faster, cheaper, easier? You don't need a revolutionary idea. You just need a better solution to an existing problem. And when you build that better solution, money flows toward you, automatically. Because people want the better thing. They want the easier way. They want the faster solution. And they'll pay for it. That's how you get rich. Not by inventing something nobody wants. By improving something everybody already needs. Find the flow. Build a better solution. Position yourself in the middle. And the money comes to you. Now let me show you exactly how to find those problems. Here's a practical exercise I want you to do right now. Take out a piece of paper and write down 3 things people in your life complain about regularly. Not big philosophical problems, practical problems. Things that frustrate them. Things that waste their time. Things that cost too much. Things that are harder than they should be. Write down 3. And next to each one, write down how much time or money people currently spend dealing with that problem. Because if they're already spending time or money on it, that's a signal. That's money flowing. That's demand. And if you can build a solution that saves them time or money, they'll pay you. That's the opportunity. That's where you start. Don't overthink it. Don't try to solve world hunger. Just find 3 problems people around you have. Problems they're already trying to solve. Problems they're already spending money on. Write them down and pick one. The one that seems the most painful. The one people complain about the most. That's your starting point. That's day 1 of your 40 days. And if you actually do this, if you actually follow through, you'll be shocked at how fast things change. But understanding leverage is what makes this whole thing actually work. Now I'm going to tell you about leverage. And this is the thing that separates people who stay broke from people who get rich. Leverage means getting more output from the same input, or getting the same output from less input. Picture 2 men moving rocks. One man carries rocks one at a time. He picks up a rock, walks it across the field, sets it down, walks back, gets another rock. He's working hard, sweating, moving fast. But he can only move 1 rock at a time. Now picture the second man. He builds a wheelbarrow. Now he loads 10 rocks into the wheelbarrow, pushes it across the field, dumps them all at once. Same effort. 10 times the result. That's leverage. When I was building automobiles by hand, I had no leverage. 1 hour of my time produced one small piece of an automobile. That's it. No leverage. But when I built the assembly line, I had massive leverage. 1 hour of my time organizing the system produced hundreds of pieces. Same input, way more output. That's leverage. And once you understand leverage, you can't go back to working without it. Because working without leverage is a trap. It's a treadmill. You run fast and go nowhere. But working with leverage, that's a rocket ship. You put in the same effort and get 10 times the result. Or you put in less effort and get the same result. Either way, you win. And that's what the 40-day system is really about. Building leverage. Building systems that amplify your effort instead of just consuming it. But here's how you actually build it in your life. Here's how you build leverage in your own life. First, stop doing everything yourself. Most people think they have to do everything. They have to be involved in every detail, every decision, every task. And that kills leverage. Because you're the bottleneck. Everything has to go through you, and you only have so many hours. So the business can only grow as fast as you can work. That's no leverage. Instead, you need to build systems where other people can do the work, where tools can do the work, where processes can do the work. And you focus on the one thing only you can do, the thing that actually creates value. For me, that was designing the system, improving the process, making it better. I didn't need to be the one tightening every bolt. I needed to be the one figuring out how to make tightening bolts faster and easier. That's leverage. You focus on improving the system, and the system does the work. Second, document everything. Every time you do something, write down how you did it. Every step, every detail. Because once it's documented, someone else can do it. Or you can automate it. Or you can improve it. But if it's just in your head, you're stuck. You have to do it every time. That's no leverage. Third, look for ways to do something once and get paid multiple times. That's the ultimate leverage. When I designed the Model T, I designed it once, but we built millions of them. Design once, build millions. That's massive leverage. How can you do the same thing? What can you create once that can be used over and over? What can you build once that keeps working? That's where you find leverage. And once you find it, everything changes. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in real life. Let me tell you about another person I knew. There was a woman who ran a small shop. Her name was Margaret. She made beautiful furniture, all by hand. Every piece was unique, custom, and expensive. She worked 60 hours a week and made just enough to get by. She was talented, hard-working, but she had no leverage. 1 hour of her time produced one piece of furniture, and that was it. So I asked her a question. I said, Margaret, what if you designed one piece of furniture that people loved? And instead of building each one by hand, you created a template, a pattern, a system, so other people could build it exactly the same way, and you could sell 10 pieces a week instead of one. She said that wouldn't work, because her furniture was special because it was handmade by her. And I said, Margaret, people don't care who made it. They care that it's beautiful and well made. And if you can train someone to make it exactly the way you do, the customer gets the same quality, but you get 10 times the sales. She didn't believe me, but she tried it anyway. She designed one chair, a really good chair, simple but beautiful. And she documented every step of making it, every measurement, every technique. Then she hired someone and taught them to make it. And you know what happened? People loved it. They couldn't tell the difference between the chairs Margaret made and the chairs her employee made, because the system was the same. And suddenly, Margaret was selling 10 chairs a week instead of one. Same quality, 10 times the sales. And she wasn't working 60 hours anymore, she was working 30. Because she wasn't building every chair, she was managing the system. That's leverage. That's the shift. And it changed her life. Now let me show you exactly how to apply this starting today. So let's bring this all together. because I want you to walk away from this with absolute clarity on what to do next. The 40-day reset is simple. You're going to stop trading time for money, and you're going to start building systems. Here's exactly how. Days 1 to 10. Identify your problem. Look for problems people already have. Problems they're already spending money to solve. Write down every frustration you hear, every complaint, every pain point. And by day 10, pick one. The one that people complain about the most, the one that causes the most pain. That's your target. Days 11 to 25, build your solution. Create something that solves that problem better than what exists. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be revolutionary. Just has to work better than the current way. Faster, cheaper, or easier. Build it, test it on 5 people, get feedback, fix what's broken, make it better. And by day 25, you should have something that works. Days 26 to 40. Create your system. Document every step of your solution. Write it all down. Then remove yourself from it. What can be automated? Automate it. What can someone else do? Train them. What requires you? Make that part as small as possible. And by day 40, you have a system that works without you. That's the reset. That's how you go from trading time for money to building systems that make money. And once you have one system working, you build another, and another. And before you know it, you're making more money working less, because systems scale. You don't. But there's one more exercise that makes this whole thing real. Now, here's the second practical exercise I want you to do. Look at your current work, everything you do in a day, and ask yourself this question for each task. Does this create value, or is this just busy work? Be honest. Most of what you do is probably busy work, meetings that don't matter, paperwork that goes nowhere, tasks that don't actually move anything forward. You're just doing them because that's what you've always done. Stop. Cut all the busy work, all the tasks that don't actually create value, all the meetings that waste time, all the paperwork that doesn't need to exist. Just stop doing them, and you'll be shocked at how much time you get back. For most people, it's 20 to 30 hours a week. 20 to 30 hours of time they were wasting on things that don't matter. Now take that time and use it to build your system. Use it to work on your 40-day reset. Use it to create something that actually makes money. And in 40 days, you'll be in a completely different place. Not because you worked harder, because you worked on the right things. Because you stopped wasting time on busy work and started building systems. That's the shift. That's what changes everything. And you can start today, right now. Before you do anything else, look at your schedule, look at your to-do list, and cut everything that doesn't create real value. Then use that time to build. But understanding what happens during those first few weeks is critical. Here's something most people don't understand about building systems. It's slow at first. Really slow. You put in a lot of work and see almost nothing. Day 1, nothing. Day 10, nothing. Day 20, maybe a little something, but not much. And this is where most people quit. They look at all the effort they put in and they see no results, so they stop. They go back to trading time for money, back to the safe thing, back to the treadmill. But that's the biggest mistake you can make, because building systems is like pushing a giant wheel. Picture a massive stone wheel, taller than you, heavier than an automobile, and it's lying flat on the ground. You start pushing. You push with everything you have, and it moves an inch. Just 1 inch. You push again, another inch. For days, for weeks, you're pushing and pushing and the wheel barely moves. Your arms hurt, your back aches, you're sweating, and the wheel moves so slowly you can barely see it. It feels pointless. It feels like it's not working, but you keep pushing. And slowly, very slowly, the wheel starts to tilt, just a little. And you keep pushing, and it tilts more and more. And then something happens. The wheel reaches vertical, and suddenly it starts rolling, on its own. You're still pushing, but now it's helping you. Now it's got momentum. Now every push moves it 10 times further than before. And before long, that wheel is rolling so fast you're running just to keep up with it. That's the compound effect. That's what happens when you build systems. Nothing for weeks, then a little. then a little more, then suddenly everything. But only if you don't quit. Only if you keep pushing during the slow part. Because most people quit right before it starts rolling. They quit on day 30 or day 38, right before the wheel reaches vertical, and they never see what could have been. And what happened with my own company proves this. At first, I had nothing, just drawings and ideas. Then I built something that sort of worked. Then I built something that actually worked. And that's when things started moving faster. I started my company, built automobiles, sold them. And the more I built, the better the system got. The faster we could produce, the cheaper we could make them, the more people wanted them. And suddenly we went from building a few automobiles to building thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions. But that explosion only happened because of the months before it, the months of building, the months of learning, the months of improving. Those months looked like nothing was happening, but everything was happening. I was learning how to make it work, how to make it better, how to make it scale. And when everything came together, it didn't just work a little, it worked massively. But only because I didn't quit during the slow part. And that's what you have to do too. You have to push through the slow part, the part where it feels like nothing's working, the part where you're putting in effort and seeing no results. Because on the other side of that slow part is the compound effect, is the momentum, is the wheel rolling on its own. But you have to make it to the other side. And most people don't. They quit too early. Don't be most people. Now here's what you need to do right now. I'm going to tell you something most people won't understand. And that's fine. This isn't for most people. Most people will listen to this and do nothing. They'll go back to work tomorrow and do the exact same thing they did yesterday. They'll keep trading time for money. They'll keep working harder. They'll keep getting more tired and more broke. And in 40 years, they'll retire with nothing and wonder what happened. That's not you, or it doesn't have to be. You're listening to this for a reason. Something inside you knows there's a better way, knows you're meant for more than just surviving, knows you can build something. Trust that feeling, because it's right. But here's the hard part. Knowing isn't enough. Understanding isn't enough. You have to do something. You have to take action. And not someday, not when you feel ready, not when the time is perfect. Today, right now. Before you talk yourself out of it. Because if you don't start today, you won't start tomorrow either. Tomorrow you'll have new excuses, new reasons to wait, new fears to deal with. And the day after that, and the day after that, until weeks pass and you're still in the same place. Still working too hard, still making too little, still wondering when things will change. They won't change until you change them, and you change them by starting, by doing the exercises I gave you, by beginning your 40-day reset, by taking 1 hour today and using it to build instead of just work. Listen to this every day. Come back to it tomorrow and the day after. Each time you listen, you'll hear something new, something you missed before. Because this goes against everything you've been taught. Your brain needs time to accept it, time to rewire, time to see that working harder isn't the answer. Building systems is. And the more you listen, the clearer it becomes, the more obvious it is. The more you'll wonder how you ever missed it. This is designed to be listened to every day. The principles become clearer each time. The path becomes more obvious. The action steps become more real. So don't listen once and forget. Make this part of your routine, every morning for the next 30 days. Let it reprogram how you see work, how you see money, how you see success. Because once you see it differently, you can't go back. You can't unsee it. And that's when everything changes. Not because the world changed, because you changed. Because you finally understood that working harder is a trap, and building systems is freedom. Here's what I'm asking you to do, right now, today, before this day ends. Take one action, just one. Do the first exercise. Write down 3 problems people around you have, problems they complain about, problems they're already spending money to solve. Write them down. That's it. That's day 1. Just write them down. And tomorrow, Pick one. The one that causes the most pain. The one people hate the most. And start thinking about how you could solve it better. You don't have to build anything yet. Just think about it. Notice it. Pay attention to it. And by day 10, you'll see opportunities everywhere. Opportunities you walked past your whole life because you weren't looking for them. But now you are. And once you start seeing them, you can't stop. And that's when you start building. That's when you start creating systems. That's when your 40-day reset begins. And 40 days from now, you'll look back and realize everything changed. Not because you worked harder, because you finally worked on the right things. Because you built systems instead of just trading time. Because you stopped bleeding effort and started building leverage. Okay, the truth is simple. The harder you work, the broker you get. Unless you're building systems. Then the less you work, the richer you become. Because systems work when you don't. Systems make money when you sleep. Systems scale when you rest. And once you have systems working for you, you're not stuck anymore. You're not on the treadmill. You're free. Free to build more systems. Free to spend time how you want. Free to live instead of just survive. But you have to start. You have to take that first step. You have to do the exercise. You have to begin your 40-day reset. Because nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to hand you freedom. You have to build it yourself. One system at a time. One day at a time. Starting today. So write down those 3 problems. Pick one and start building. The 40 days start now. Good luck.